we attempted in days gone by to describe what is the physical development of the child in utero. You know, and some people in the 18th century said, well, they're preformed, you know. So the early microscopists thought they saw what is known as a homunculus on the spermatozoon. What was a homunculus? It was a mini human being, waiting to go bigger and bigger and bigger. But everything that was needed was there. And this little homunculus would grow bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually the womb couldn't accommodate it anymore and the human being entered the world. So we had to give up that idea of pre-formation. We also had to give up the idea of epigenesis, meaning that the structureless jelly of the sex cells really didn't contain any rudiments of the organism that was coming. So we had to give up that idea. Well, what idea replaced those ideas? The idea that replaced those ideas was the introduction of embryology, where really, with X-rays, with powerful microscopes, with all these devices, we could now see the physical growth of the baby in utero. And we recognized that the baby in utero goes through a series of transformational epochs. There's a series of changes, a series of I'm going to call them transformational epochs. So if the child in utero goes through a series of transformational epochs, it doesn't take much daring to ask the question, is there something similar in the spiritual growth of the child? Is there something similar in the psychic growth of the child? Was the traditional view of education, you know, like not very much, you know, nothing up to 6, not very much then, but the greatest influence, university, it's too late. The greatest impact happens here, in the first plane of development. There's the first plane of development. You will see it's red, it's a plane of creation. The children create themselves. They create themselves of the country into which they were born. They create themselves of the time into which they were born. And that is an awesome, powerful creation. And Montessori said that really it's a period of absorbency. And, you know, Montessori doesn't get the credit that she really deserves. She called this a period of absorbency. Now, if you want to get validation for the period of absorbency, just read The Scientist in the Crib. You know? And now that period of absorbency can be technologically validated. Because it's no longer, as I say, no longer hidden from our view. We have the technology that captures the moment by moment by moment by moment growth of children. So that's by a woman called Alison Gopnik, and it's called The Scientist in the Crib. So this is a period, it's such a powerful period. Montessori divided it into 2 sub-periods, the unconscious absorbency of children and the conscious absorbency of children. Children are becoming aware, but here they are unaware. They're unconsciously absorbing. They're unconsciously incarnating the country into which they were born, the time into which they were born. And it's a period, you know, you'll see this line come down here, and Montessori calls that a line of progression, which reaches its peak at 3 and then regresses. And when I say regresses, I'm not saying that's bad news. I'm actually saying it's good news, because the sensitivities and the sensibilities of that first plane of development, they've reached their peak at 3, and they diminish after that and they enclose that first plane of development, that plane of creation, where the children create themselves, the children coordinate their movements, the children absorb the language into which they were born, the children absorb the culture into which they were born, and all of this unconsciously. Because those sensibilities are going to be replaced by other sensibilities. That's one period of transformation to be superseded by another period of transformation. The second period, starting at 6, is a period where the children develop what they created in the first plane of development. This is now a period of development, equally powerful, but in a different way. These children are abstracting more. These children are interested in culture. And part of the contents of the curriculum for this age here is a powerful introduction to cosmology, a powerful introduction to culture and cosmology. Children are taken back those millions of years and get an appreciation of how the planet has evolved, and how life appears on the planet in its formative stages. So this is a time of great culture, great absorption of culture and the arts. And I was looking at the art in Leslie's classroom, and I couldn't believe that 3, 4, and 5-year-olds produced that art. To me, that was not available for children, when I was a traditional teacher, not available. So this is an amazing period, followed by another amazing period, which is another period of creation. And those of you who are mothers and fathers of teenagers, 13, 14, really, if you treat them like 3-year-olds at a different level, you'll probably keep treating them appropriately, because these teenagers are entering a social phase that they haven't quite mastered yet, and they're insecure in it. But as they were entering an individual stage, these are now entering a social stage. And so it's a time of insecurity for children, a time of uncertainty for children. So really we need to nurture them and support them and take care of them through this amazing period of adolescence. Amazing. I think we have yet to acknowledge that it's hidden from our view the power of teenagers. It's hidden from our view. We don't see it yet. And then that period of creation is followed by a period of maturity. The child at this stage explores the prepared environment that they can see with their eyes, they can touch with their hands. The children of this period are exploring the environment that they cannot see with their eyes, they cannot touch with their hands. They can only see it and touch it with the imagination. So the imagination is developed and enhanced and enriched in this period. It comes into play in this period, the period from 12 to 18. And then 18 to 24, there's an entry into maturity, and this, the mature human being emerges. I say I know children. I know children? Wait a minute. I limit the children by my knowing of them. But when I stand in that children are this possibility, I don't know them, and they get to reveal themselves to me.